For this problem, we're going to use this set of steps. Number one, we're going to use the distributive property, and the distributive property uses multiplication. So that's what comes first in this order, using PEMDAS. Next, we're going to collect like terms because that's where we add and subtract. So that's next in PEMDAS. Following that, we're going to get all of the variables with their coefficients on one side. And then we're going to get all of the constants on the other side. And finally, we're going to solve for the variable using inverse operations. Let's look at the first problem. So problem number one, what I have you do normally is I have you circle the distributive property section. Then I want you to copy down the negative 4x and put an addition sign to signify the start of the distributive property section. The equals 68, we're going to tack on at the end. That's the end of the distributive property section. And in between, we're going to put a blank plus a blank. We use the distributive property here where we distribute the negative 4 to the negative 2x. And we distribute the negative 4 to the negative 8. We do this because this negative 4 is being multiplied by the entire set of parentheses. So it has to go to both the negative 2x and the negative 8. Now what we can do is we can check and make sure that we included the sign in front of each number. It's really important that you keep the sign with the value when you're multiplying. Okay, and we did that correctly. This is the step that people have the most trouble with. They usually make a mistake by, not copying down a negative sign when they were supposed to, or putting a negative sign where it shouldn't be. So be very careful at this stage. Now I simplify. Negative 4 times negative 2x is an 8x. Negative 4 times negative 8 gives us 32. And on the right side, we get 68. So we use the distributive property. We did step 1. Now step 2, we collect like terms. 8x and negative 4x are like terms because they have the same variable with the same exponent. We look at the coefficients. 8 minus 4, we're left with 4x. And then we copy down the 32 equals 68. Now that we've collected like terms, we're ready to label each side. I'm going to put the variables on the left and the constants on the right because the variable is already on the left, and it will save me more time if I establish the left side as the variable side. Now I'm going to move the constant 32 across the equal sign to the right side. To do that, I need to use inverse operations. So I subtract 32 from one side, and I subtract 32 from the other side. On the left side, 32 minus 32 equals 0, and I'm left with 4x. On the right side, 68 minus 32 gives us a positive 36. Now the 4 is what is keeping the x from being alone. The operation going on between the 4 and the x is multiplication. The inverse operation of multiplication is division, so we're going to divide each side by the number that is keeping the x from being alone. On this side, 4 divided by 4 is equal to 1, so we're left with 1x. 36 divided by 4, we get 9. You do not need that coefficient 1. Normally you just write x. So we have x equals 9. The next step is to check your work, because when you're doing problems like this, where you have multiple steps to do, it's easy to make a mistake. So we want to check and make sure that we did it properly. In this next step, I'm going to substitute in the 9 wherever there is an x. So it's going to replace the variable. Now you'll notice that I put in brackets here to replace these parentheses. And the reason is because I recognize that I'm going to have parentheses within parentheses, and it can look confusing when you have two sets of parentheses. So for clarity purposes, I replace the outer parentheses with brackets. At this stage, I'm going to replace every x with a 9. So instead of x, now I have 9. I use substitution. And now I'm going to simplify. To simplify, we're going to use PEMDAS. We're going to start with what is inside the parentheses. Inside the parentheses, we need to do multiplication before we do subtraction. So we take the -2, we multiply it by 9, and we get -18. We are going to continue to simplify these parentheses. And I take -18 and subtract 8, and I'm left with a -26. Now that we've simplified completely what was in the parentheses, we can move on to the next step. And the next step we can take is multiplication. So we have two sections where we have multiplication. So -4 times 9 gives us -36. And 4 times a -26 gives us -104. And then we carry down the subtraction sign. Subtracting a negative number is the same as adding. And finally, the last step we take is we take 104 and we subtract 36, and we're left with 68. The number 9, plugging that in for x, made the equation true. So we know that x equals 9 is the solution to this equation. I'll do another example in part 2 for you.